Jake Morrison stood in the big meeting room on Nexus Prime. The room was huge, with seats for hundreds of different alien species. Today, like every day for the past 30 years, the aliens were telling humans what they could and could not do. High Counselor Vexithara was speaking. She was from the Zephyrian Empire. Her people looked like tall birds with bright blue feathers that stood up when they got excited. Right now, her feathers were flat, which meant she was being serious and boring. Resolution 4471 is now passed, she said through her translation device. Humans will be limited to 3 star systems. The Krell Dominion will receive 12 new worlds with valuable minerals. Jake felt his hands turn into fists. Behind him, Captain Lisa Parker from Earth's military stood very still. But Jake could see she was angry too. Her face was red and she was holding her ceremonial sword very tight. This was not fair and everyone knew it. For 30 years, humans had given more to the Galactic Council than any other species. Human engineers had made faster-than-light travel work better. Human doctors had cured 17 different alien diseases. Human soldiers had died protecting alien worlds from space pirates and raiders. And still the aliens treated humans like stupid children. Counselor Thys from the Aquatic Federation raised one of his tentacles. His people lived underwater and looked like giant squids. Humans should be grateful for any worlds the Council gives them, he said. His voice made a bubbling sound through his water mask. Several alien groups made sounds that the translators said were laughter. They were laughing at humans. Again, Jake had heard enough. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 15 years. He had listened to insults and unfair treatment every single day. He had watched aliens take credit for human inventions. He had seen human colonies given away to species that had done nothing to earn them. Your species lacks the ability to manage resources properly, Vexithara continued. Humans are too emotional, too unpredictable. These new worlds need careful management that only more advanced species can provide. More laughter from the alien seats. The Krell delegates were making clicking sounds with their insect-like mouths. The Krell were a warrior species that looked like giant beetles. They had been fighting wars for thousands of years but had never invented anything useful. Now they were getting 12 worlds that human explorers had found and human scientists had surveyed. Jake looked at the data pad in his hands. It showed the real numbers that the Council did not want to talk about. Humans made up less than 3% of Council species, but they provided 47% of all new technology. Human farms fed 60% of the galaxy. Human factories made the ships that other species flew. Human medics staffed the hospitals on dozens of worlds. And what did humans get in return? 3 small, rocky worlds that nobody else wanted. Captain Parker leaned forward and whispered in Jake's ear. "Sir, the Defense Force is ready to support whatever decision you make." Jake nodded. He had been thinking about this moment for months. Earth's government had given him special powers to make decisions if things got too bad. Well, things were definitely too bad now. He stood up slowly. The huge room got quiet. In 300 years of Galactic Council meetings, no ambassador had ever just stood up and interrupted. "Counselor Vexithara," Jake said in a clear, loud voice. "Counselor Thys, distinguished members of the Council." His words echoed in the big room. Every alien eye, tentacle, and sensor was looking at him. "I have an announcement to make," Jake continued. "As of right now, humanity is leaving the Galactic Council. We quit. We are done." The silence was complete. Even the translation devices seemed shocked and stopped making noise. Vexithara's feathers suddenly stood straight up. "You cannot be serious, Ambassador Morrison. No species has ever left the Council voluntarily. Where would you go? What would you do without our guidance and protection?" Jake smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Counselor Vexithara, humans have been taking care of ourselves for a long time. We survived ice ages, wars, plagues, and disasters long before we met any of you. We built cities, invented machines, and reached the stars all by ourselves." He gestured toward the other human delegates in the room. There were only 12 humans among hundreds of aliens. "We will figure out what to do next. We always do." There, Krell Ambassador, a huge creature covered in black armor made an angry clicking sound. You need us more than we need you, humans. You will come back begging within a year. Jake's smile got wider. We'll see about that. Admiral Koth of the Stellar Navy floated in his water tank. His people were jellyfish-like creatures. This is ridiculous, he said. Humans provide some useful services, but they are easily replaced. Then you won't miss us, Jake replied. He picked up his datapad and official papers. Captain Parker and the other human delegates did the same. They walked toward the door of the great chamber. Wait, called Counselor Brix from the mining guild. You cannot just leave in the middle of a session. Jake stopped at the door and turned around one last time. Watch us. As the humans left, the aliens began talking all at once. Their voices mixed together in a noise that sounded like panic. But Jake did not care anymore. He was tired of being treated badly by creatures who owed their comfortable lives to human hard work and creativity. Outside the chamber, Captain Parker asked, "Sir, what are your orders?" Jake looked out the window at the space station's docking bays. Human ships were everywhere. Human crews were loading and unloading cargo. Human engineers were fixing broken alien equipment. Human medics were treating sick aliens in the station hospital. Signal all human ships and stations, Jake said. Tell them to pack up everything that belongs to us. We're going home. 5 years after humanity walked away, the Galactic Council held its final meeting. The once great chamber that had housed representatives from 47 different species now echoed with emptiness. Only 12 species remained, and many of their representatives looked sick and tired. High Counselor Vexithera stood at her podium for the last time. Her beautiful blue feathers had turned completely gray, and she moved like an old, broken bird. Around her, the other council members looked just as defeated. Counselors, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. We are here to discuss the formal end of the Galactic Council. The words felt strange in her mouth. For 300 years, the Council had ruled the galaxy. They had decided which species could explore new worlds, which technologies could be developed, and how resources should be shared. Now they could barely keep their own worlds running. Before we proceed, said Admiral Koth, floating weakly in his water tank, I must report on the latest intelligence from the former human territories. Everyone listened carefully. What the humans had built in just 5 years was beyond belief. Long-range sensors have confirmed the completion of the first ring world, designated as New Terra, Koth reported. It serves as the capital of the Alliance of Independent Systems. The structure can house 50 billion beings and has agricultural capacity to feed twice that number. Counselor Brix made clicking sounds of amazement. 50 billion? Our entire civilization has only 30 billion people. Total. There is more, Koth continued. Intelligence reports indicate that Alliance technology now includes ships capable of traveling between galaxies. They have developed medical treatments that can extend lifespans to over 1,000 years. They can terraform dead planets in just a few decades. The room fell silent. While the Council had been collapsing, humanity had been reaching for the stars. How many species have joined this alliance? Asked Minister Gorth. 37 confirmed members, Koth replied, but the number grows every week. This was the most painful truth of all. Species that had once been proud members of the Galactic Council were abandoning their old allegiance. They were applying to join the human-led alliance instead. What is their application process? Asked Counselor Thys, his tentacles drooping with shame. Applicant species must demonstrate their commitment to the Alliance principles. Koth explained. Cooperation over domination, innovation over tradition, merit over species hierarchy. They must also contribute something valuable to the Alliance community. Vexithara laughed bitterly. Merit over species hierarchy. How revolutionary. The irony was crushing. The Council had always operated on the principle that some species were naturally superior to others. The humans had built their alliance on the idea that everyone should be judged by what they could do, not what they looked like or where they came from. What about our own application? Asked Trade Minister Kelvan hopefully. Vexithara shook her head. I made informal inquiries through back channels. The response was educational. She activated a recording device. General Torres's voice filled the chamber, speaking words that had been burned into Vexithara's memory. The Alliance accepts new members based on their contributions and commitment to our principles, not their desperation. If the former Council species wish to join, they must prove they have learned from their mistakes. Applications will be considered in 50 years. 50 years. It might as well have been forever. Perhaps we could offer unconditional surrender, suggested Admiral Kreldor. His proud warrior species had been reduced to begging. Join as junior members, servants if necessary. They are not interested in servants, Vexithara replied. They want partners, equals. The concept appears to be foreign to us. As if to emphasize the point, an aide entered the chamber with the day's refugee reports. Every day, ships full of desperate people arrived at Alliance space. Some were accepted after proving their worth and commitment. Others were given humanitarian aid and sent away to try again later. The Alliance was not conquering the galaxy. They were simply offering a better way of life to anyone who could meet their standards. And millions of beings were abandoning the Council territories to join them. Counselors, said Chief Economist Pelthar, we must face the final truth. Without the Alliance's help, our remaining civilizations will collapse within 2 years. We do not have the knowledge to maintain our own technology. We do not have the skills to feed our people. We do not have the military strength to protect our worlds. Outside the Council chamber, the galaxy was changing rapidly. Alliance ships patrolled trade routes that the Council could no longer protect. Alliance medical teams treated plague victims on worlds the Council had abandoned. Alliance engineers repaired critical infrastructure that the Council could no longer maintain. But they did so as independent actors, not as conquerors. Every Alliance action came with a simple message. This is what responsible galactic citizenship looks like. Far away in the command center of the AIS Redemption, Admiral Lisa Parker watched the Council's final broadcast. She had been Captain Parker when the humans first walked away. Now she commanded the Alliance Defense Force, protecting dozens of species and hundreds of worlds. Orders, Admiral? Asked her first officer, Lieutenant Commander Tom Brady. He was young, born in the Alliance colonies, and had never experienced the humiliation that his parents' generation had endured under Council rule. Parker considered the question. The old Council's collapse had created dangerous power vacuums across the galaxy. Pirate fleets were attacking defenseless worlds. Hostile species were trying to grab territory while they could. Innocent people on dozens of planets faced chaos, starvation, and violence. Signal the fleet, she decided. Begin humanitarian operations in the former Council sectors. We protect civilians and maintain order. But make it clear to everyone that we are not claiming territory or establishing control. We are simply showing them what proper galactic citizenship looks like. What about the former Council species who want to join us? Parker smiled. Tom, do you know what the most important lesson of the past 5 years has been? No, Admiral. That respect cannot be demanded or granted by committee. It must be earned through excellence, maintained through integrity, and shared freely with those wise enough to recognize its value. She looked out at the stars where Alliance ships were already moving to establish safe corridors for refugees and humanitarian supplies. The Council spent 3 centuries trying to rule the galaxy through force and fear. We will show them how to lead it through example and service. As Alliance vessels jumped into hyperspace, they carried with them a new model of civilization. Not the old system where powerful species dominated weaker ones, but a community where everyone contributed according to their abilities and received support according to their needs. The former Council members who wanted to join would have to prove they understood this difference. They would have to show that they could work as partners instead of rulers. Most importantly, they would have to demonstrate that they had learned to value cooperation over domination. Some species would make this transition successfully. Others would not. But the Alliance would judge them based on their actions, not their promises. On New Terra, General Torres stood in her office, reading reports from across the galaxy. The ring world was beautiful, with cities and parks and farms stretching to the horizon in all directions. But what made her most proud was not the impressive technology or the massive construction projects. It was the letters she received from young beings across the galaxy, children of dozens of different species, writing to tell her that they wanted to grow up to be Alliance citizens. They had heard about a place where everyone was judged by their character and contributions, not by their appearance or ancestry. They had heard about a civilization where the best ideas won, regardless of who thought of them, where leaders served their people instead of commanding them, where different species worked together as equals to solve problems and explore the universe. The Galactic Council had ruled through fear and hierarchy. The Alliance led through hope and opportunity. And across the galaxy, people were choosing hope. Torres picked up her pen and began writing her daily report to the Alliance Parliament. There was much work to do. New worlds to explore, new species to contact, new technologies to develop. The universe was vast and full of wonders waiting to be discovered. But for the first time in galactic history, those discoveries would be made by a civilization that valued wisdom over power, cooperation over conquest, and justice over convenience. The age of human dominance had not begun with weapons or threats. It had begun with a simple decision to walk away from disrespect and build something better. And in building that better future, humanity had offered the galaxy its greatest gift, proof that civilizations could govern themselves through cooperation rather than coercion. The Council was dead. The Alliance was alive and growing. And the galaxy would never be the same. 1 year after the humans left, High Counselor Vexithera looked terrible. Her bright blue feathers had turned dull and gray. She had not been sleeping well, and neither had any of the other council leaders. The big meeting room on Nexus Prime felt empty. Only half of the usual alien representatives had come to this emergency session. The others were too busy dealing with disasters on their home worlds. Counselors, Vexthara began, her voice shaking slightly. Our latest economic reports show that galactic productivity has dropped by 37%. Minister Gorth from the Industrial Clan slammed his huge fist on the table. His people looked like walking rocks, and when they got angry, small pieces of stone fell off their bodies. Right now, Gorth was shedding pebbles everywhere. 37%? He roared. My people are starving. Human farming methods fed half the galaxy. Our own food production has collapsed by 60%. Counselor Bricks from the Mining Guild made worried clicking sounds with his insect mouth. The mining situation is even worse. Human engineers designed all our extraction equipment. Without them, our output has dropped to almost nothing. We cannot even maintain the machines we have. But the medical crisis was the worst news of all. Dr. Zixara from the Healer Guild stood up slowly. Her people looked like tall, thin lizards with healing powers. But even her advanced medical knowledge could not solve the current problems. Honorable counselors, she said, without human medical research and treatment methods we are seeing the return of diseases that were cured decades ago. The Regellian plague has come back in 3 star systems. The crimson fever is spreading through the outer colonies. She paused and looked around the room. Based on our current medical capabilities, we estimate that 2 billion beings will die within the next 2 years. The room fell completely silent. 2 billion deaths. It was almost impossible to imagine such a disaster. Admiral Kreldor shifted uncomfortably in his black armor. His insect-like face showed embarrassment, which was rare for the proud Krell, warrior species. The security situation is also challenging. Without human patrol fleets, pirate attacks have increased by 400%. 17 colonies have been abandoned because we cannot protect them. Trade Minister Kelvin, a slug-like being from the Commercial Federation, delivered even more bad news. Counselors, we must face the truth. Humanity did not just leave us. They took all their knowledge and innovations with them. He activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy's economic data. The numbers were all red, indicating serious problems. Every major technological advance in the past century had human involvement. Kelvin continued. Our hyperdrive engines are 30% less efficient without human improvements. Our computer systems are failing because we cannot reproduce human quantum processing methods. Even our basic manufacturing has slowed down because it depended on human-designed automation. Counselor Theiss floated in his water tank, looking very unhappy. His tentacles were wrapped around himself in what his species did when they were frightened. A year ago he had said humans should be grateful for scraps. Now he was not laughing anymore. How did we not notice how much we depended on them? Theiss bubbled quietly. Because they did their work quietly and efficiently, replied Chief Economist Pelthar. His people were excellent at mathematics, but even he had not calculated how important humans were to the galaxy's economy. At our current rate of decline, Pelthar said, we will face complete economic collapse within 5 years, mass starvation, and the breakdown of civilization within 3 years. The horrible numbers hung in the air like a death sentence. Admiral HFY Koth floated in his tank, his jellyfish-like body pulsing with stress patterns. What about our attempts to contact the humans? Have we had any success? Intelligence Director Vixtel, a small gray being with large eyes, shook his head sadly. We have sent 12 diplomatic missions to find human settlements. 3 ships never returned. The other 9 were told to leave human space immediately. The humans will not even listen to our messages. But surely they must realize we need them, protested Minister Gorth. The galaxy cannot survive without their contributions. Apparently, Vixtel replied, they do not care. This was the hardest truth for the Council to accept. For centuries, they had believed that all species needed the Council's guidance and protection. The idea that someone could not only survive without them but actually do better was shocking. What are the humans doing out there? Asked Vexthera. Vixtel activated his own holographic display. It showed long-range sensor readings from the edge of known space. Our deep space monitors have detected massive construction projects in the Magellanic Clouds and other distant regions. The humans appear to be building something very large, but our sensors cannot determine exactly what. Their technology has advanced so rapidly that our equipment can barely track their activities. He paused and looked uncomfortable. There is more. We have detected non-human energy signatures working alongside human ships. It appears that the humans have made contact with other species that we know nothing about. Impossible, snorted Admiral Kreldor. We have explored the entire galaxy. There are no unknown species. Apparently we were wrong, Vixtel replied quietly. The implications were terrifying. If humans had found new allies, they might become even more powerful. Meanwhile, the Council was growing weaker every day. We need to offer them something, said Councillor Brix. Better territory, more representation, anything they want. What if they refuse? Asked this. Chief Economist Pelthar looked at his calculations one more time. Then the Galactic Council will cease to exist within 5 years. As the meeting continued, reports kept coming in from across the galaxy. Food riots on 17 worlds. Medical emergencies that nobody knew how to treat. Pirates attacking cargo ships with no fear of human patrols. Factory worlds going dark as their machines broke down without human maintenance. The proud Zephyrian Empire was facing its first famine in 300 years. The mighty Krell military could not protect their own colonies. The wise Aquatic Federation was watching their people die from diseases they thought were extinct. And somewhere in the darkness of deep space, the humans were building something new. Something that did not need the Galactic Council at all. High Counselor Vexithara looked around the half-empty meeting room. Once, this chamber had been full of confident alien leaders who ruled the galaxy. Now, it held desperate beings who were watching their civilization collapse. Meeting adjourned, she said quietly. We will reconvene tomorrow to discuss surrender terms. It was the first time in Council history that anyone had used those words. But as the aliens left the chamber, they all knew the truth. They had lost a war they did not even know they were fighting, and the enemy had won by simply walking away. 6 months had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the Galactic Council. Now Admiral Ben Carter stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Independence. Through the big windows he could see hundreds of human ships gathering in space. It was the biggest move in galactic history. Every human colony, Every human station, every human ship was getting ready to leave Council space forever. "Admiral," said Commander Nancy Webb, his second-in-command, "the last transport from Mining Station Alpha 7 just arrived. We have evacuated all 2,000 humans." Ben nodded. He felt sad, but also proud. The aliens had thought humans would come crawling back within a few weeks. Instead, humans were proving they could organize the largest space migration ever seen. On the medical station orbiting Centauri B, Dr. Amanda Walsh was having a hard day. She was the head doctor at New Geneva Medical Center, the biggest hospital in this part of the galaxy. For 20 years, she had worked here, treating patients from dozens of different species. "Dr. Walsh," said Chief Medical Officer Ryan Clark, "there are 50 alien ships outside asking to dock. They all have sick patients on board." Amanda looked out at the alien ships. She could see Zephyrian hospital ships with their blue hull markings. There were Aquatic Federation medical transports full of sick jellyfish people. Even the proud Krell had sent a ship asking for help. "Doctor," Ryan said quietly, "are we really going to leave all these sick people?" Amanda felt her heart break a little. She had become a doctor to help people, not to abandon them. But the aliens had made their choice. They had told humans they were not wanted. They had said humans were too emotional and unpredictable to be trusted with important things. "Send a message to all the alien ships," Amanda said finally. "Tell them that our medical staff is no longer available in Council space. Our automated systems will provide basic emergency care for the next 72 hours. After that, they need to find other doctors." It was the same story all across the galaxy. On mining worlds, human engineers shut down the big machines that dug valuable metals from the ground. The machines went into sleep mode with messages saying, "Technical support no longer available." Marcus Johnson was the boss of Stellar Logistics, the biggest shipping company in the galaxy. His company moved food, medicine, and supplies between thousands of worlds. In his office on Trade Station 7, he spoke to his managers. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus said, "we built the most efficient delivery network in galactic history. Now it's time to show the aliens what happens when they bite the hand that feeds them." Marcus pressed a button on his desk. All across the galaxy, human cargo ships stopped taking orders from alien customers. Automated cargo systems politely informed alien users that service has been discontinued in your area. The Galactic Trade Network, which connected all the major worlds, started having strange problems. Somehow, only alien transactions were affected. Human-to-human trades worked perfectly, but when aliens tried to buy or sell anything, the computers said, "Error, service temporarily unavailable." Of course, the trade network had been built and maintained by human programmers. Without them, it was slowly breaking down. Meanwhile, in a secret location in the Kepler sector, Colonel Steve Andrews was putting the finishing touches on humanity's biggest secret. He was the leader of the 7th Human Engineering Corps, and for 50 years his people had been working on something called Project Homeward. "Colonel," said Major Helen Davis, "the last habitat ring is complete. We can now house 15 million people in the new space cities." Steve looked out at what they had built. Massive space stations hung in the darkness, each one big enough to hold hundreds of thousands of people. They had farms, factories, schools, and everything needed for human civilization to survive without any help from aliens. "Good work, Major," Steve said. "Signal Admiral Carter. Tell him the new homes are ready." The aliens had not known about Project Homeward. For 50 years, whenever human ships had disappeared into deep space on routine patrols, they had actually been building a backup plan. Humans had learned never to depend completely on others for their survival. Back in Council space, the effects of the human departure were getting worse every day. Admiral Koth floated in his tank, reading reports that made him very worried. Space pirates were attacking cargo ships much more often. Without human patrol ships, the outer space lanes were becoming dangerous. Food prices were going up fast. Human farms had produced 60% of the galaxy's food, using special techniques that other species did not understand. Now, worlds that had always had plenty to eat were facing hunger. On the industrial world of Gamma Forge, the factories were slowing down. Human-designed automation systems were breaking, and nobody knew how to fix them. The aliens had always depended on human engineers to keep their machines running. High Counselor Vexithara called an emergency meeting. Her blue feathers were drooping with worry. "Counselors," she said, "we may have made an error in judgment regarding the humans." Counselor Thais bubbled angrily in his water mask. "Impossible. Humans are primitive and emotional. They cannot survive without our guidance." But the report said something different. Long-range sensors had detected human ships in the distant Magellanic Clouds, far beyond any known civilization. The ships were bigger than before and made with technology that Council scientists could not understand. "Perhaps," suggested Admiral Koth carefully, "we should consider reaching out to the humans. We could offer them a better deal." Vexithara's feathers stood up slightly. "You mean ask them to come back?" "Not ask," Koth said quickly. "Negotiate, as equals." The idea shocked everyone. The Council had never treated any species as equals before. There had always been the advanced species who made decisions and the primitive species who followed orders. But as more reports came in, the truth became clear. Without humans, the galaxy was slowly falling apart. The question was, would humanity ever forgive them? Far away on the space habitat called New Hope, Admiral Carter received a message from Earth. It was from the President himself. "Ben," the message said, "the aliens are starting to panic. Intelligence reports say they're discussing sending ambassadors to find us. What's your recommendation?" Carter looked out at the thousands of humans working on their new space cities. They were building something amazing, something that belonged only to them. He sat down to record his reply. "Mr. President, let them panic a little longer. We have work to do." 2 years after the humans walked away, Ambassador Cavvel received the most important mission of his life. His species, the Diplomatic Corps, were known throughout the galaxy as the best negotiators and peacemakers. If anyone could find the humans and convince them to return, it would be him. Cavvel's people looked like tall, thin beings with silver skin and large eyes that could see many different colors. They had ended wars and made peace between enemies for thousands of years. But this mission felt impossible. The Galactic Council had authorized him to offer humans anything they wanted. Complete equality in the Council, their own sector of space, with no interference from other species, full control over their own affairs, even payment for all the years of unfair treatment. "Find them, Cavvel," High Counselor Vexthara had said. "The galaxy depends on it." For weeks, Cavvel searched the edges of known space in his small diplomatic ship. Most of the galaxy was empty, with huge distances between stars. Finding the humans would be like looking for a single grain of sand in an ocean. Finally, his sensors detected something: human energy signatures in a region that should have been completely empty. But when he tried to get closer, his ship was stopped by something invisible. "Attention, unknown vessel," came a voice over his communication system. "You are entering restricted space. Please identify yourself." The voice was speaking perfect galactic standard, but with a human accent. Cavvel felt hope for the first time in months. "This is Ambassador Cavvel of the Galactic Council Diplomatic Corps," he replied. "I request permission to enter your space on official business." There was a long pause. Then a human ship appeared on his sensors. It was unlike any vessel in Council databases. The ship was sleek and angular with smooth curves that made it beautiful to look at. But Cavvel could see weapon ports and shield generators that were far more advanced than anything the Council had. The human who appeared on his view screen was young and confident. She had short brown hair and wore a uniform that Cavvel had never seen before. "Ambassador Cavvel," she said politely, "I am Captain Emma Ross of the Human Independent Fleet. I am afraid you are in restricted space. Please change course and return to Council territory immediately." Cavvel's translator had trouble with some of her words. Restricted space? Independent fleet? When had humans started claiming territory and building their own military? "Captain Ross," Cavvel said carefully, "I come bearing an official message from the Galactic Council. We wish to discuss humanity's possible return to Council membership." Captain Ross smiled, but it was not a warm smile. Ambassador, I will save you. Sometime the answer is no. No? No. We are not interested in returning to the Council. We have built something better. Cavavel tried again. Captain, please. Billions of beings are suffering without human help. The galaxy needs humanity's skills and knowledge. Captain Ross looked thoughtful for a moment. Very well, Ambassador. I will escort you to someone who can receive your official message. But I warn you, do not expect the answer to change. The journey to meet this someone took 3 days. Cavavel could not believe what he saw along the way. The region of space that should have been empty was full of activity. Massive shipyards were building vessels that made Council warships look like children's toys. Space stations the size of moons harvested energy from nearby stars. Agricultural platforms grew crops using methods that should not have been possible. Most shocking of all, Cavavel saw ships that were clearly not human. They had strange designs and energy signatures he did not recognize. But they were working peacefully alongside human vessels. Captain Ross, he asked, what species built those other ships? Friends of ours, she replied simply. When they finally reached their destination, Cavavel gasped. It was a space station so large that it could have housed the entire population of a small planet. Through the transparent windows, he could see the construction of something even more incredible. A ring-shaped structure millions of kilometers across was slowly taking shape. What is that? He whispered. The first ring world, Captain Ross said proudly. When it is finished, it will provide living space for 50 billion people. General Patricia Torres met them in a conference room aboard the massive station. She was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but Cavavel could sense the strength and intelligence behind her friendly manner. Ambassador Cavavel, she said, looking at his diplomatic credentials. You want humanity to return and save the Galactic Council. General Torres, the galaxy is dying without human contributions, Cavavel pleaded. Billions of people are suffering. Surely you can see that humanity has a moral duty to help. General Torres nodded slowly. Ambassador, let me ask you something. What did the Council do when we asked for fair treatment? When we requested equal representation? When we offered our knowledge freely and asked only for respect in return? Cavavel had studied the historical records. He knew the answer, and it made him ashamed. The Council treated humanity unfairly. The Council told us we were too emotional. Torres continued. Too unpredictable. They said we lacked the sophistication to be trusted with important decisions. So we left, and we took our emotions, our unpredictability, and our supposed lack of sophistication with us. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the ring world construction. It turns out those qualities were exactly what the galaxy needed. Torres turned back to face him. We have been busy, Ambassador. We found 17 species that the Council rejected or ignored. The Christine Collective, who process information in ways the Council called primitive. The Void Dancers, who exist partially in subspace and were dismissed as impossible. The Mechanical Union, who were refused recognition as truly alive beings. Cavavel realized that the strange ships he had seen belonged to species he had never encountered. Species the Council had turned away or never bothered to contact. They joined us, Torres said, because we offered them what the Council never did. Partnership instead of control, opportunity instead of limitations, respect instead of condescension, she gestured toward the window. Together, we have accomplished more in 2 years than the Council accomplished in 2 centuries. We have cured diseases the Council said were incurable. We have developed technologies the Council said were impossible. We have built a civilization based on cooperation instead of domination. Cavavel felt his hope crumbling. But surely you understand that the Council has changed. We are prepared to offer humans complete equality, full representation, your own territory, even reparations for past wrongs. General Torres sat back down. Ambassador, do you know why we called our organization the Alliance of Independent Systems? No, General. Because independence is not something that can be given to you by others. It is something you must take for yourself. The Council's offer of equality is still the Council deciding what humans deserve. We no longer accept that anyone else has the right to make that decision." She leaned forward. "We tried working within the Council system for 30 years. We followed the rules, made compromises, and hoped that patience would be rewarded with fairness. Instead, we were treated like children who should be grateful for whatever scraps we received. The Council realizes it made mistakes," Cavavel said desperately. "Yes, they do. Now. After their civilization started collapsing without us." Torres shook her head. "Ambassador, the Council does not want us back because they have learned to respect us. They want us back because they need us. There is a difference." Cavavel sat in silence, absorbing the truth of her words. Finally, he asked, "Is there nothing that would convince humanity to return?" General Torres considered the question carefully. "The Alliance accepts new members based on their contributions and their commitment to our principles, not based on their desperation or their past power." She stood up again. "If the former Council species wish to join the Alliance, they must prove they have learned from their mistakes. They must show that they can work as equals with others, not as rulers over subjects." "How long would that take?" "Applications will be considered in 50 years. Maybe longer. 50 years. An entire generation would pass before humanity would even consider forgiving the Council's treatment of them." As Cavavel prepared to leave, General Torres offered him one final piece of information. "Ambassador, you should know that we are not leaving the galaxy to suffer. Alliance ships are already providing humanitarian aid to planets affected by the Council's collapse. We protect innocent people regardless of their government's past actions. But you will not save the Council itself. The Council chose its own fate when it chose to treat others as inferior," Torres replied. "Some institutions deserve to fall so that better ones can take their place." Cavavel returned to Council space with the worst possible news. Humanity was not coming back. They had built something new, something better, and they no longer needed or wanted the Council that had rejected them. The age of Council dominance was over. The age of human-led galactic civilization had begun.